continue from where we left off in the previous video. So in this one, we'll be looking at steps 11 all the way to step 20. So let's get started. Now for step 11, if you inspect the label elements with your browser's developer tools, you may notice that it's actually 288 pixels wide instead of 270. This is because by default, browsers include a border and padding when determining an element size. Okay, so what this means is that, let me show you the developer tools. So if you go here, you click this three dots here, you will see more tools, and then you see developer tools, right? So if you click developer tools, you see a bunch of stuff here. But what you want is this element here, this tab here called elements. Okay, now you click on this tab and then click on this. Okay, now when you click on this, you see the box here. So as you can see, it says it's actually 288 instead of 270. Okay, so for this one is 270 rather, but some browsers may show a value of 288, right? So since we don't know the particular browser that our user will be using, we are going to use this star selector. What this star selector does is that it selects all of the elements. So once we select all of the elements, we can override any default styles that the browser may have. Okay, so this was just by the way. So yeah, so we're going to say star like so. Once again, this star selector selects all the elements, and want to give it box sizing, and we'll say border box. That will be the value. Okay, just to make sure that there's no padding, default padding around any of our elements. All right, so for step number 12, remember that the use of H1, H2, and similar tags determine the semantic structure of your HTML. However, you can adjust the CSS of these elements to control the visual flow and hierarchy. So create an H1 rule. So we'll say H1, bring our curly braces, and want to give it a font weight with a property of 800. Okay, as you can see, the weight increases. Next up, want to give the H1 a text align. Want to make sure that it's correctly centered. Okay. All right, now that we've done that, we want to fine-tune the placement of the H1 by giving it a top and bottom margin. So the way we'll do that is to say margin. So for the top and bottom, we want to give it -4 pixels. And then for the left and right, we want to give it 0. Okay. For step 15, we want to create a P selector and want to remove all margins. So we just say margin and we'll give it a value of 0. Now when it's 0, there's no need for us to bring 0 pixels because 0 is 0, irrespective of whatever unit we are using. Okay. All right. Lines can help separate and group important content, especially when space is limited. Okay. So we want to create a div element below our H1. So here's our H1. We create a div below it like so. And want to give it a class. The value of the class will be divider. All right, create a selector for your new divider. So we'll say dot divider, which is the class name, and then we want to set the border bottom property to this right here. So we say border bottom, and the size will be 1 pixels. The style will be solid, and the color will be, let me just copy it, this color code here. All right, so as you can see, we have this line here just below the nutrition facts. Okay. Oops, there's something wrong. Oh, so also give it a top and bottom margin of 2 pixels. It should not have any left or right margin. Okay, so the way we do that, we say margin, and for the top and bottom, that will be the first value, that will be 2 pixels, and then left and right, we don't want any margin, so we just say 0. Okay. All right. Next up, letter spacing. The letter spacing property can be used to adjust the space between each character of text in an element. So we want to give the H1 selector a letter spacing property, and we want to set the value to 0.15 pixels. So the way we'll do that is to say letter spacing 0.15 pixels. Okay. Nutrition labels have a lot of bold text to draw attention to important information. Yeah, so as you can see, we have quite a number of bold text here, and this is to show or make the more important information stand out. Okay, so rather than targeting each element that needs to be bold, it is more efficient to use a class to apply the bold styling to every element. Okay, so we have our various elements here. Okay, so now we can target every single one of these elements that need to be bold in our CSS and just give it a font weight, right? But instead of doing it for every single one of them, a more smarter way of doing it is to use classes. Okay, so for example, for the second element, we want to give it a class of bold. Okay, it should be the second element, my bad. I added it to the first element, so the second element should have a class of bold. All right, now let's move on. Your new class does not have any styling yet, so we want to create a bold selector. Okay, so we'll say bold, and I want to give it a font weight. And we'll set the property, the value to 800. All right, now as you can see, this becomes bold because we've increased the font weight. Now go ahead and remove the font weight property from the H1 selector as well. Okay, so now in the H1, want to remove the font weight property. Okay, we'll work on it and bring it back to how it was. All right, but that will be it for this video. So in this video, we've looked at steps 11 to 20. Let's continue the next one from step 21 to 30.